Delivering value via sustainable supply cycle strategies. Before we start with the first topic of our report, let me give you substantial introduction on how this company created sustainable strategies and gave value to its stakeholders and environment. Starbucks is known globally. It says here that they have many coffee house chains in more than 40 countries, even here in the Philippines, and they wanted to continue their expansion. One of their major objectives is to satisfy their consumer, other stakeholders, and at the same time doing sustainable practices. They believe that they can deliver value if they have sustainable cycle strategies. And that cycle start from the supplier, the coffee growers to be particular, all the way down to the final consumer. So the strategy that Starbucks have made is to give importance to the member of supply chain, their partners. That is why there is Starbucks Shared Planet program, emphasizing that conservation should start from roots, meaning giving value for producers of raw materials, manufacturing, down to the distribution. Each sector should properly utilize the resource and create sustainable farming practices and preserve the healthy shade of the forest farm. While in Coffee and Farmer Equity or CAFE, they help coffee growers through proper dividends and incentives to prevent the deforestation. With that, they will also value the land they are working with and they will follow the criteria required for them to be considered a sustainable source of coffee. Starbucks use the sense of reward and assurance for the growers to work efficiently and produce with quality. Moreover, under this practice, they will also embody an environmental leadership. They cannot be qualified to be supplier of Starbucks coffee if they didn't follow the measures set by the firm and the program to protect the environment, protect water quality, soil, heat, and assurance that forests will not be devastated. There will be third-party verifier that will assist the farmers if it complies with the list of environmental, social, and labor standard. So meaning to say, if you really want to deliver value either to your consumers or even for firm's own sake, then it might as well focus in every stages in supply cycle.
Diagnosing the elements of sustainable supply cycles. An understanding of supply cycles requires that one appreciate both the organizations involved in making a product available for sale and the function performed by these organizations. An understanding of this function performed within the cycle is highly germane to efforts to raise sustainability. In efficient supply cycles, this function offers benefit to some members of the supply chain. This means that supply cycles is a network between a company and its suppliers to produce and distribute a specific product to the final buyer. This is about what are the cycle in supply in order to produce a product. Example, the timber industry, soybeans farmers who supply raw materials for ink, paper producers, ink manufacturers, printers, bookbinders, wholesalers, retailers, teachers, students, and recycling centers. And also, the organization long-term viability, on the other hand, stems from this alternative aspect of performance on the triple bottom line at the same time. When one understands the benefits of derived from each function, they can build environmentally friendly supply channels that provide enhanced benefits across the value. In many industries, the functions performed within channel are ascribed to specific organizations. For example, the auditing function to some degree is associated with accounting firms. Although, in many cases, one can eliminate an organization from the supply cycles. One cannot eliminate the value derived from the activities performed by an organization. Thus, a textbook manufacturer may elect not to use retailer, but then the sale of books to students must be achieved via the internet or other means. We outline a sequence of activities conducted in the supply cycles. In the following section, and we treat these entities as different business. Although we show these tasks separately, we acknowledge that in many circumstances, one organization will choose to execute numerous supply chain responsibilities. For example, Starbucks Coffee is the retailer that controls the majority of the supply chain from the coffee bean processing to retailer operation. The next is the marketing definition of channel described. It is a set organization involved in the process of making a product available for consumption. Similarly, logistics making the supply chain as a set of organizations linked directly to the flow of the product and information from a source to the consumers. Both definitions include the specific entities that direct items to consumer, but neither emphasizes the value that comes from product offerings. A value chain, on the other hand, is defined by Porter as the combination of primary and supporting action carried out by company in order to gain competitive advantage. A company gains a competitive advantage by knowing how its channel gives value to the consumer. Although this viewpoint offers valuable insight into efforts to create to consumer, it does not address the relationship between value and the environment. The next is supply cycles as the set of entities associated with yielding environmental, social, and economic value from resource procurement through resource processing, consumption, and pet consumption. Our definition incorporates the logistics of the value chain described by Porter, and it incorporates the logic of supply chain and distribution channels in logistics and marketing strategy. This concept necessitates an awareness of the input-output process at each stage of the supply chain, as well as the value chain. Figure 8 and 2, the input-output process assumes that processing occurs at each stage in the supply chain. Procedures, producers, retailers, and consumers. There are inputs to processing and output to processing. Next is every entity in the supply chain has two forms of input and output. Inputs include those factors processed by an entity higher in the supply chain, and they further include resource obtained from the environment. Every entity in the supply cycle has two types of outputs: products and byproducts. Products are the focal outcomes of processing, and byproducts refer to all other results of processing. For example, the product steel's manufacturing process outlined in Chapter 14 describes iron ore and compress at input to steel production. Those inputs are mixed in sequence of the procedures that result in steel coils as the final product, as well as carbon dioxide as byproducts. Steel producers can enhance revenues and maximize operating expenses to the extent that they can discover uses for these byproducts. As a result, if the steel maker can sell the slug at the concrete industry, steel manufacturer saves money on slug disposal, while production lowers and cost of the road construction industry carbon footprint. The next is we refer the process of delivering value as a supply cycle of the relationship between the environment and the product development process. Ultimately, inputs are derived from the environment and outputs are returned to the environment. Product outputs are motivation engaged in the supply cycle, and these outputs become input to the next stage of the supply cycle. The byproducts either become inputs to other supply chains or they are returned to the environment. Because the environment is both a source and product of supply chain activity, environmental consideration must be factored into the entire value chain cycle. Figure 8.3, for example, depicts a simple one raw materials bicycle production supply cycle. The entities involved in the supply cycle send product inputs the next stage of the cycle of each level of the process. These entities derive their value from the environment. As a result, the bicycle maker obtains steel from a metal supplier, but bicycle production also requires water from environment. An entity interacts with environment at each stage of the supply cycles, both collecting and sending materials. The merchant, for example, generates byproducts that are either reused in other supply chains or recycled into the environmental. The entity can generate revenue from byproduct of these outputs are included into other supply chains. Byproducts that have a value in supply chains, on the other hand, must be returned in the environment. These products do not produce money, but they do raise operating costs. Next is viewing the delivery of value as a supply cycle. Provides the opportunity to examine the specific outputs and their inherent costs of benefits. Consistent with this perspective, Walmart derived Sustainability Scorecard in 2007 that identifies 14 categories of products or process with the greatest environmental impact. These 14 areas are linked to the company's objectives of using 100% renewable energy, achieving a zero waste, and marketing sustainable products. In order to reduce water, the company has boosted its usage of solar panel, reduced waste the company, and natural light as sources of sustainable energy, and it has pioneered materials handling techniques, and company has implemented a number of environmentally friendly technologies such as the exclusive selling of ultra-concentrated detergents.
Benefits of sustainable supply cycles. Understanding the benefits of sustainable supply cycles is not only just beneficial to the management itself, but also it creates an opportunity to have a better market position in the society. The first benefit of the sustainable supply cycle is that it provides a better working conditions, reduce turnover, and improve product quality. In this sense, there is an actual investigation to the firm's activities within its supply cycle. Only the necessary raw materials are selected as to make production easier. Excess materials are eliminated, those employees could work better. If this happens, employees could contribute better at work. This also lower employees' turnover and consequently enhance product quality. As a result of first benefit, it could improve efficiency and probability. In every level of supply cycle, it focuses on efforts to reduce inputs and maximize the production of outputs. When these things are achieved, it results with higher probability. Things that would actually be done to achieve this is to have an efficient packaging, distribution, and transportation costs. Third, it helps the firm to better manage the risk. At some moment, we should not avoid risks. In a business sector, we must learn how to manage risk. Understanding our liabilities could actually limit our exposure to risk. Having an analysis of supply cycle disturbance and their negative consequences could lower the risk it could make to any firms. To better manage the risk, aside from knowing our liabilities, considerations of assets are important. The fourth benefit of sustainable supply cycle is that enhanced brand reputation. Firms that invest in sustainable practices in the supply chain develop positive brand reputations that by the so as it is when we know the proper sustainable practices, not only does it improve our product quality, but it also improves its reputation. The last benefit is that increase stakeholder returns. Basically, when an organization focuses on the triple bottom line, it has an ability to anticipate and monitor risks associated with economic, social, and environmental returns. So, we all these factors are managed accordingly, return to stakeholders correspondingly increase as well.
The topic that I'm going to discuss will begin with sustainable logistics. Logistic refers to the process of planning, allocating, and controlling human and financial resources dedicated to physical distribution, manufacturing support, and purchasing operations. We cannot deny the fact that logistics have so much environmental cost. For example, the burning fuels. That is one of the negative contributor of the major problem at this time. Kaya nga, recently nagtrending ang Let the Earth Breathe because of the threat of the climate change. Those firms who engage in logistic process must have something to do with it because it also influences economic and social status in the country. That's why companies are trying their best to adopt a sustainable logistics. But the question is logistics can really be sustainable? In logistics, the materials and final output came in right quantity, right time, right place. It's because of proper management of logistics. It refers to the process of handling the resource from the moment it was acquired, stored, and to the point of transporting it to the final destination. If you will imagine, aside from the cost it will incur while moving the product, the logistics functions also create environmental impact, particularly in rising the greenhouse gases. Now, if firms can have sustainable logistics, they can reduce the financial cost of firms handling and transporting goods, and they can ensure more profit, which also help even the country's economy. At the same time, reducing the impact in environment. It is very practical to have sustainable logistics because it can be indication of competitive advantage, especially if the triple bottom line, the economic, social, and environmental performance will be managed properly. Increasingly, firms interested in enhancing triple bottom line performance examine the following phases of logistics. First, fleet optimization. Since it involves distribution and transporting outputs and input from one point to another, the transportation cost is very high. So in fleet optimization, firms, suppliers, and other party belongs in supply cycles are finding their way to utilize effectively their fossil fuels, yung mga natural gas, etc., used in transportation. They tend to limit the cost by amount of travel their vehicle use. Now, the current problem here in Philippines and even the other countries is the price hike of the gas due to the war happening in Ukraine. One of the affected industries is the logistic for sure. But there are ways they can apply to fleet the cost of transportation. For example, they can reduce the distribution centers. The P&G or Procter & Gamble use this strategy because if they set the focus on specific distribution areas, they can estimate and reduce the cost and delivery on time. So, to optimize the cost of transportation is a matter of enhancing vehicle performance, proper routing to reduce time of transportation, and of course, setting best and accessible locations. In addition, if firms will not be responsible in using the fossil fuels, then it will definitely harm the place where we live. Energy efficiency. Sa panahon ngayon, dapat wala ka nang sasayangan. It's time to utilize the technological device and ecological materials that we have to conserve and use it in firms' operation. Now, firms can control and utilize the energy in distribution and production centers. How? Let's say the heat from the sunlight. Through the use of newly invented device, heat can be converted into renewable energy. Specifically here in the Philippines, a tropical country, those firms handling, storing, or producing product for transport can use heat as a source of energy. Some of example is the solar walls. Pwede ring magpagawa ng on-site recycling facility and yung photovoltaic panel that generate electricity. The next one is innovative technology. The logistic functions should be advanced to achieve the objectives of firms in lowering the cost of their operation. These innovative technologies help to speed up the flow of logistic and systematic route as firms monitor the supply chain. The four technologies are routing and tracking computer systems, inventory management software, radio frequency identification, and global positioning system. First is the routing and tracking computer system. Because of these, firms' tracking of goods is now easy, even if it is moving from origin country to another. The firm and client who demand an accurate tracking will be satisfied. Simple but exact example is the Lazada company. They use this innovative technology to track the good that the customers ordered to their site. With the partnership with their third-party provider na nagre-relay ng info about the item's location through app, nabibigyan nila ng additional service yung customers nila, which is, yun nga, yung matrack yung item. Next is inventory management software. This second innovative technology provides convenience to the firms because it can give real-time and seamless transaction. Like for example, in checking the stocks, the sales, and the purchased goods, ensuring that all are in right level. Because of this software, firms can monitor the transactions which also usable to distribution. Firms often invest for an efficient software. Siyempre, kadalasan talaga hindi libre yung mga ganito. Kasi, in return naman is not just financial gain, but also long-term efficiency of operation. They believe that the software feature can help them to manage the inventory and other business functions which can reduce not just the cost, but also the time. Third is RFID, or radio frequency identification. This new technology is beneficial in logistics because it enables the shipping, receiving, and inventory to be more accurate. Through RFID, all of logistic activities will be faster. Unlike before, where all are manual. Now that there's RFID, the firm can identify the real-time location of goods dahil once na may scan ito, for example, automatically mare-record ang data and even the product history. For example, there is delivery of product in a warehouse. Siyempre, there's pallets, pati yung boxes at yung items mismo, lahat yun merong RFID tags. Through mobile reader na siya magbabasa ng tags, it will be easy to identify the items inside and its quantity or those na nasa outside area pa. Yung antenna sa RFID can scan the tags para madaling makita yung mga goods sa warehouse. In short, using RFID help for an ease reading of labels of received and delivered goods, and merchandise will be efficiently in control faster than traditional one. Global positioning system. In GPS, there's 24 satellites orbiting the Earth, which contains precise clock and radio transmitter. we need at least 3 satellites to determine our exact location. The GPS receiver here to Earth calculates the current position by using what we called trilateration. It is a mathematical method. It can decode time signals. Because of GPS, it became easy for the firm to monitor the current location of the delivery drivers and their vehicles. Because aside from persons' devices like phone, cars also have GPS. It can detect whether the driver is off route or not. And because it has tracing units, firms and manager can tell if vehicle is at optimum speed, something that makes gasoline and diesel utilize. Kaya ngayon, most firms in logistics use GPS because if they will receive or even deliver the product, they can easily determine the expected time of arrival and even the exact location where the goods are. Packaging. Yes, of course, if you want to have sustainable logistics, you need to consider the packaging. It says here that packaging is an important element of logistics. Since firm nowadays deals with having sustainable logistics, they tend to modify the package of the goods that will be distribution and storage ready without using so much cost, and it can reduce unnecessary expense. In designing a package, firm, especially the big one, must be aware that goods will go through different stages in supply cycle. So it should be ready for fast packaging and loading procedure. A package that can withstand the stress of transportation. Meron kasi tayong different logistic activity like transportation, inventory, warehousing at communications. So, if one will design a packaging, it should evaluate its relationship with this activity. Inter-organizational relationship. So the third party logistics as an intermediary wanted to satisfy their clients. The manufacturer and retailer, for example, they often demand for a sustainable supply cycle. That is why they create a strategy or ways to achieve it. You know what? The reason why firms often hire and build relationship to third-party logistic company or 3PL is because they allow this company to handle their goods. There are transactions that will be through charged to them, specifically the real-time delivery of goods to consumer. Here are some ways made by 3PL. First is enhanced vehicle performance. Logistic involves transporting the product to a certain areas. Firms want a smooth and low transaction cost, so they choose a third party that will help them achieving it. Since it involves transportation, to enhance vehicle performance, they require a proper monitoring of the behavior or actions done by their vehicle and driver as well. Did they watch their speed or they do aggressive driving? Is their car load too much? Does it have vehicle performance? All of these are just one of the considerations to have efficient vehicle performance. And third-party logistics ensure that all of these will be achieved. The other one is reduce total supply cycle costs. One way to reduce total supply is through third-party provider. The question is, mas malaki ba yung gastos kapag magkakaroon pa sila ng contract with a third-party logistic? For me, no. Because it says here that they have strategies to optimize the allocated costs while also saving the environment that will allow first party, the firm, to stand out without incurring high costs. They were able to save gallons of fuel per year. High percentage of fuel costs and environment impact are the major concern in logistics. One example of 3PL here in the Philippines is Transportify. These companies do freight shipping, large quantity across long distance. Its benefits decrease time spent in traveling, reduce fuel consumption, and route planning costs. It also reduce carbon footprint. Ito yung kadalasan nating makikita na yung mga malalaking truck. Last one is enhance customer service. If they enhance the customer service, they will lessen the unexpected returns and they will be able to assess the major concern of the customers. The reason why firms are aiming to have sustainable logistics is to save time and cost of distribution. One of their first consideration is the best and enhanced customer service. They choose a third-party logistics that have the best agent to answer their concern about the route of distribution. It is good that they have route optimization, meaning yung client or the firm can freely identify the shortest route that their goods will take. An enhanced customer service should allow customer to list down or choose the order destination they prefer and then consolidate by the agent. Again, for example, Transportify. Customer can book through app without using multiple cargo truck rental service. Sa kanila, once is enough because it can have 15 drop-off points. Kaya nila yon dahil na-optimize nila ng ayos yung routes. Isa pa, it says here that those third-party vendor, a company that provides a product or service on behalf of your organization to your customer. Halimbawa, ay yung mga delivery companies like J&T, Ninjavan, JRS, yun nga, Transportify. Lahat sila, dapat they consider the supply chain as a chain of events at maaaring mag-incur ito ng so much cost. Dapat, hindi lang nila iniisip na basta ma-deliver lang yung goods tas bayaran na lang ng partner firm ang cost na sosobra. No! They should think it's strategic to give proper service. How they will shorten the routes to make delivery faster. Yung proper handling of goods while in transporting process, inventory, and other supply chain event. Because at the end, both party naman na makikinabang. Mababawasan ng customer complaints and return, dadami din ng order. Meaning, yung partnership of third-party vendor with their client will be prolonged as well. Who among you are OC and often check if certain product is ISO certified? Because now, we're going to talk about ISO 14000. ISO 14000 is a voluntary standard, actually a series of international standards established by International Organization of Standardization. Isa sa nagpapatibay na dapat there's quality, safe, efficient, and more importantly, firm has no severe impact to the environment. It is environment management system, so the primary concern of this is the environment practices. ISO 14000 have the standard that helps ensure the firm and product they offer have least harmful impact on the environment in its different life cycle, inside their facilities or even outside. Dapat yung goals and objective din ng firm is environmentally friendly. Because of ISO 14000, there will be new customers and business partners because they believe that ISO certified firm can reduce the cost, waste, and comply to the regulations in proper management of environmental risks. It leads firms to be aware kung yung process and procedure ba nila is can affect the environment. That is one of steps or need to get certified. Yes, once firms is ISO certified, it can really improve firms' image. But take note, dinevelop lang ng ISO ang international standards, but they are not involved in certification. They do not issue certificate. It is performed by external certification bodies. They are responsible for issuing the certificate. After the assessment made by the accreditation body using the long list of standards, specifically the FAB or Philippine Accreditation Bureau, then maaari na silang awardan ng certification body like Certivati here in our country to be ISO certified. Here are the example of ISO certified companies. Thank you and have a good day.
Today, shoppers has many choices from the physical shops around the corner. The 24/7 shopping in their pockets, capturing and retaining their attention is a challenge for any retailer. Retailers create value and build shoppers' anticipation by consistently delivering engaging experiences that also fulfill shopping needs. In-store, eye-catching displays that engage shoppers and make it simple to shop grow shopper loyalty. Aside from IKEA's company, SM Investment Corporation conducted the R for Mother Earth, Trash to Cash and Green Retail Agenda and delivering value for their customers. SM Company conducted Earth Hour by turning off its light for an hour to raise awareness on the pressing issues the environment is facing and invites Miss Philippines Earth candidates to visit select stores during Earth Hour and engage with shoppers through activities like plate sharing, face painting, and other fun events to build strong relation to their customers. SM Company also conducted Trash to Cash by engaging its customers through being their recyclable trash in exchange for cash. Central rule of retailing supply cycles. When we say Universal Product Code, it is a product identification system used for retail products worldwide within the industry. Every consumer's product sold at physical or online retailers worldwide contains the UPC barcode, which by definition consists of number known as UPC alongside a graphical, machine-readable version of the UPC known as barcode. It is an 8 to 12-digit number known as UPC code is assigned to each product to identify it during sales transactions. The first 6 to 10 digits represent the manufacturer's identification number, the next 1 to 5 represent the item number, and the final digit represent the check digit which ensure the accuracy of the code. One factor, the growing importance of mass distribution, profoundly altered the power dynamic between producers and retailers. Market power is defined as companies' ability to successfully influence the pricing of its product or services in the overall marketplace. For example, the Pure Gold Price Club Incorporation, also known as Pure Gold, the store sold a wide array of goods such as groceries, apparel, household accessories, and furniture at very affordable price. The strategy of Pure Gold's aligning itself with sari-sari store owners establishes a strong financial certainty. It already has a program called Aling Puring, through which sari-sari stores owners can access Pure Gold massive product inventory, hopefully at a discount price. With its small entrepreneurs world source their goods in Pure Gold, effectively eliminating Pure Gold's competition. Today, it is the number 1 retailer in the hypermarket format in the Philippines and the number 2 in retail format in the country. The company has been catering for more Filipinos, having over 159 nationwide stores. Retailers actively accessing 5 areas of the supply chain. It includes energy and climate, land, soil, air, water, and lastly, community and people. Energy and climate change. When we talk about climate change and affecting the supply chain, the greater frequency and severity of climate hazard can create more disruption in global supply chain, interrupting production, raising costs and prices, and hurting corporate revenues. Unpredictable natural disasters arising due to climate change are increasing the fragility of that supply chain industry. As the climate change demand will shift as global temperatures rise. For instance, demand for heating oil will decline as will demand for other winter goods. More consumers are also prioritizing sustainability in the products they buy, shifting demand toward more environmentally friendly goods. For example, here in the Philippines, we experience floods, drought, extreme weather, sea level rise, heat waves, and ocean acidification. Many industries here in the Philippines are affected due to climate change. Due to flooding, industries such as rice are more affected. In commonly flooded areas, production and supply chains is impacted, particularly for all farmers, affecting their income as the retailers. The production is low and the consumer demand will be high. We cannot survive in the absence of healthy land and soil. We grow the majority of our food and build our homes on land. Land and soil constitute the foundation for sustainable agricultural development, essential ecosystem function, and food security. They are the key sustaining life on Earth. Land is essential for all animals and plants that live on land or in water. Soil supply the essential nutrients, water, oxygen, and root support that our food-producing plants need to grow and flourish. They also serve as the buffer to protect delicate plant roots from drastic fluctuation in temperature. It is recommended for every businesses to increase the area under sustainable soil management practices, enhance the restoration of degraded soil, and promote sustainable production and intensification through adapted biological resources, increasing soil fertility, water use efficiency, ensuring sustainable use of inputs, and recycling of agricultural products. We cannot survive in the absence of healthy land and soil. We grow the majority of our food and build our homes on land. Land and soil constitute the foundation for sustainable agricultural development, essential ecosystem function, and food security. They are the key sustaining life on Earth. Land is essential for all animals and plants that live on land or in water. Soil supply the essential nutrients, water, oxygen, and root support that our food-producing plants need to grow and flourish. They also serve as the buffer to protect delicate plant roots from drastic fluctuation in temperature. It is recommended for every businesses to increase the area under sustainable soil management practices, enhance the restoration of degraded soil, and promote sustainable production and intensification through adapted biological resources, increasing soil fertility, water use efficiency, ensuring sustainable use of inputs, and recycling of agricultural products. Less energy wasted with LED lighting. Standard LED bulbs can be up to 80% more energy efficient than conventional bulbs and waste far less energy than other styles of lighting. Fluorescent lights, for example, convert around 95% of the energy they produce into heat and only 5% into light. LED lights convert 95% of their energy into light, with only 5% being wasted as heat. This means that LEDs require less power than regular forms of lighting. So obviously, the less energy they require, the more positive the effect on the environment. Homeowners or some businesses choose to use LED lights because the less energy required to produce lighting, the lower your monthly energy bills will be. It is not only can help to save the planet that you live on, you can also save money in the process. For example, the lights in your business establishment can make or break your customers' experience. With the right lighting products, you can lead individuals into your store, highlight specific products, and even encourage purchases. Proper lighting in your establishment can also improve its overall ambience and increase security. 10 endemic factors for urban sprawl. Number 1 is unlimited extension development. In Metro Manila, rapid urban growth was absorbed by two types of residential areas: squatter residential areas that expanded along the main street in a subdivision development on marsh land that had formerly been used as paddy fields. Second factor is low density development. Sprawl area is generally characterized by low-density development. It has been found in a large number of studies that the density of population decreases away from the city center. The cities of the developed world, the density of population of low and sprawl area, suburbanization is a form of urban development where people migrate outwards from the city to the fringe area as living condition was found to be better in the sprawl area compared to the city. Since the land is cheap in the sprawl area, is characterized by large lot size, single story, and relatively large living space compared to city. Consequently, the density of population in the sprawl area is much less compared to city. The third one is leapfrog development. Single story, large lot size with small built-up area and larger living space. All this leads to excessive consumption of land. Thus, land in sprawl areas is regarded as quite inefficient and leads to excessive consumption of land. The development is discontinuous, haphazard, and unplanned or poorly planned. This scenario leads to leapfrog and urban development, which are space-consuming forms of spatial development. Therefore, one of the most important characteristics of urban sprawl is that it consumes excessive amount of land. Rate of conversion of agricultural land into build-up outspaces the rate of growth population. The fourth one is fragmented power. Cities the world over are highly fragmented. The fragmentation of the built-up area cities by the open spaces interpreting them is a key attribute of urban sprawl. And urban sprawl as fragmentation as distinct from sprawl as lower density development is now a universal feature of cities. The fifth one is private automobile. Another important characteristic of urban sprawl is the heavy dependence of population living in the sprawl area on private transport. For accessibility, difficulty moving among well-separated land uses makes living in sprawl areas automobile dependent. The connected city with vast areas lying outside city limits and this transport connectivity facilitated people to move out of the city to the fringe area. Through the expansion of the extensive highway system, it became possible for people to live away from the city and commute to work by private automobile. The sixth one is the absence of centralized planning. The control of civil and municipal authority in the sprawl area is either weak or absent. And therefore, development in the sprawl area is not subject of regulation. There is no coordination among government agencies and private players in the development of the area. At the times of single sprawl area may lie in the administrative jurisdiction of number of authorities. Enforcement agencies are generally weak in the sprawl area, so even where there is plan or regulation for the development of the area, the enforcement is weak. This again facilitates players to pursue their interests. The development of sprawl area is unplanned, poorly planned, uncoordinated, and controlled in the haphazard, coupled with poor implementation for existing public regulation. The seventh is widespread center commercial development. In the developed world cities especially, there is complete separation of land use in the sprawl areas. Sprawl area is the different land uses such as residential, industrial, commercial, etc. get located separately and distant from each other. The eighth is large fiscal disparities. Under these factors, local government units contribute a portion of the growth in the value of their commercial, industrial, and public utility property to a tax-based sharing pool. Each community receives a distribution of property value from the pool based on the market value and population of each city, making resources available to communities at the beginning stages of development or redevelopment. The stability the cities that are net contributors provide to the region as a whole. The ninth one is the segregation of the types land. Another characteristic of sprawl is that it leads to social segregation. People who can afford to build a new house and commute by private automobile move to the sprawl areas where areas the poor are left behind in the city. However, this kind of social segregation in developing world cities is rarely found. In developing world cities, at times there is social segregation of population in the sprawl area in terms of language, religion, or income is resulting. Endo-sectoral development of sprawl areas segregating different ethnic, cultural, economic groups. The last one is reliance on filtering. Filtering dictates the new higher price properties entering the market costs those who can afford to do so to trade up. As the supply of vacant older properties rises, the rent prices for those properties should fall. Market stability is also significantly influenced by real incomes. A change in real household incomes have profound effect on the proportion of monthly purchasing power utilized for rent. The filtering model proposes that households move up the property ladder by using a gain in equity of their current homes to trade up for a higher quality home as their equity improves over time. However, the empirical evidence of filtering process is mixed independent of sample of time period being examined. Air is the name for the atmosphere of Earth. Air pollution is not only hazardous to human health, it's also hurting business. As pollution increases, consumers were more likely to stay indoors, avoid restaurants, and spurn retail or recreational opportunities, suffocating local sales. Air pollutants come from a range of sources, both man-made and naturally occurring, as well as from a range of industries. Those include transport, manufacturing, energy, as well as the more basic heating, cooling, and power needs of millions of offices, retail spaces, and other business premises. One of the best solutions that every enterprise should do is to be clean, and green. Use solar technologies that are zero carbon and often practical solution for many facilities, especially those with large roof of areas. Water is one of the world's most precious resources. Not only does water sustain life, it also upholds agriculture, health and hygiene, manufacturing, and recreation. Water also influences retail businesses. One example is the fashion industry, where they use large amounts of water for their production. Growing cotton used as raw material for apparel requires significant amounts of water. Fabric dyeing in other parts of the production process also required large volumes of water. Uniqlo used Blue Cycle is an industry game changer, eliminating the need for large amounts of water and manual labor used to get that faded or in look. Blue Cycle reduces water use in the finishing process by up to 199%. Jeans are finished to the same standard of quality with just about a teacup's of water. Community and people. For retailers, relationship building is essential. Relationship build trust, and without trust, retailers have an uphill battle to making sales. Retailers have been among those on the front lines, helping communities stay safe and healthy, showing up as true leaders in communities, large and small. Leading retailers were quick to adapt their operation to keep employees and customers safe, while ensuring they still had access to food and supplies they needed. Being community-focused simply means being customers-focused. Without making that all-important connection with the potential clients and supporters, a business can flourish and grow. Retailers don't just sell products, they build communities and bring people together. To help people combat feelings of loneliness and isolation, retailers are offering resources to maintain social connection and goodwill.
Hi, I'm Angela Miranda and I will be discussing marketing sustainable product lines. Green technology in the product mix. Consider first the producer of a product that recognizes that some technologies can be incorporated into the product mix that markedly enhance product sustainability. For example, over the past decade, automobile manufacturers have developed hybrid fuel technologies that significantly lower gas consumption. Firms can elect to market these technologies and existing brands, or they may develop new brands. A simple example of green technology is LED lighting. By avoiding incandescent lights, there is a substantial gain on efficiency. LED lights bulbs use less energy than traditional incandescents. Plus, LED lights provide vital outside pure visual aids. Instead, they've been implemented on vertical farming and have been combated malaria. Smart LEDs are a simple smartphone upgrade that even apartment dwellers may adopt. Distribution of sustainable products. A second facet of establishing sustainable product lines at the retail level concerns the distribution of product. Regardless of whether a product is sustainable, the level of competition on the grocery shelf is quite large. It is somehow hard because not all product is as sustainable, but it is challenging knowing that your product is sustainable. It can function wherein most of the customers are environmentally aware and wants environmentally safe products. As we distribute products which is sustainable, it should have a lowest impact in the ecological and social environment when it comes to distribution of sustainable products. In terms of marketing, you should point out your stand and emphasize the green marketing that explains that your sustainability is quality that gives your customer the best experience. Retailers typically want to carry sufficient number of products that enable them to serve customers and generate a profit. Because shelf space is limited, introductions of new products often come at the expense of other products in the merchandise category. New product must be justified by demand so that the cost of carrying inventory for the new brand is relatively low. To be successful in this setting, producers of new branded products need to illustrate that the demand for the new product is substantial. If the demand for the new product and its related profitability are not appreciable, the retailer will not be able to justify adding the new product to the retail product mix. The product mix of a firm is crucial to understand as it exerts a profound impact on a firm's brand image. Maintaining high product width and depth diversify a firm's product risk and reduces dependence on one product or product line. With that being said, unnecessary or non-value adding product-wide diversification can hurt a brand image. For example, if Apple were to expand its product line to include refrigerators, it would likely have a negative impact on its brand image with consumers. Consumer demand for products influences the form of distribution sought by producers of sustainable product lines. Consider, for example, a company such as Light of Date Organic Teas and Tysons of Traverse City, Michigan. Firms of type this that seek to market their products through grocery store can pursue one of three paths. They can market their brand through groceries that market predominantly sustainable and organic brands. A second option is to market their branded products through full-line grocers that market products supported and developed with varying levels of sustainability. The third option is to focus on production technologies and serve as a private label brand for a retailer. The branded alternative to marketing through specialty retailer is marketing via general grocery merchandisers such as Walmart or Kroger. General grocery merchandisers have always had a strong emphasis on product quality, and in these recent years, these firms have made substantial investment in sustainable business practice and green marketing. One of the advantages of working with these larger firms is the economies of scale in their operation. If the sustainable product is marketed alongside all products in the class, there is greater potential for it to reach a broader audience. This broader audience that includes the unconcerned and drifter market segments, however, may not be appreciate the benefits associated with the sustainable operations. Many consumers will be also unwilling to dedicate the time to understand the benefits of the sustainable products. The price-sensitive consumer will often select the product with the lowest sticker price, regardless of the product's sustainability. Price-sensitive customers are those who view price as a serious factor in a purchase. Some customers view extremely low prices as a too good to be true and may assign a poor value to a product without having tried it. These types of prestige price customers often refers to a purchase of a product of a lower cost. The third alternative for the entrepreneur is to market the brand as a private label product. A private label refers to a product in which the brand is owned by the retailer or wholesaler rather than by the producer. A private label product is manufactured by a contract or third-party manufacturer and sold under a retailer's brand name, as the retailer is best know everything about the product, what goes in it, how it's packaged, what the label looks like, and pay to have it produced and delivered to the store. This is in contrast from buying products from other companies with their brand names on them. For example, Target sells a variety of branded snacks from companies like General Mills and Frito-Lay, but it also sells its own chip and crackers under the Archer Farms brand, Target's private label brand.
Marketing sustainable consumption. Marketing sustainable consumption refers to the use of services and related products, which respond to basic needs and bring a better quality of life, while minimizing the use of natural resources and the toxic materials, as well as the emission of waste and pollutants over the life cycle of the service or product, so as not to jeopardize the needs of future generations. The need to promote and ensure sustainable use of products is extensive. Our analysis at this juncture addresses two facets of sustainability that are most prominent after a purchase at a retail store. Our treatment of sustainable consumption in retailing therefore focuses on post-retailing packaging and efforts to reclaim products and restrict component part usage. Post-retail packaging refer to the form of packaging used by the consumer to transport product away from a retail establishment. The amount of this material is substantial. Consumers are beginning to recognize substantial limit to using either paper or plastic bags. Paper is the traditional packaging material made from a renewable source. Paper, however, consumes more energy and water in its production, and further yields higher levels of pollution and more greenhouse gases. Plastic bags were introduced to the market 30 years ago as a low-cost alternative to paper. The lightweight of nature of plastic means it is less expensive to transport. Plastic is also longer lasting and less expensive. Nevertheless, plastic is rarely recycled, and it is a formidable trap for bird, fish, and other wildlife. There is a clear trade-off between plastic and paper. Plastic is a lighter and less expensive, but it is rarely recycled and a threat to wildlife. By contrast, paper has a larger carbon footprint and it is heavier and more expensive to produce, but it's more often to recycled. Recognizing these trade-offs, consumers, government, and retailers have begun to explore other packaging options. Some consumers have taken this charge on themselves and have begun to use reusable bags. Biodegradable materials refers to packaging that will break down and return to nature within a reasonably short time after the usual disposal. Um, the manufacture of biodegradable plastic results in far less environmental pollution when compared to plastic made from petroleum. When biodegradable plastic break down, they do so into harmless, non-toxic elements. They produce only 32% of greenhouse gases that are emitted by petroleum-based plastics. Compostable items, however, break down organically into humus-like material and return nutrients to the earth. This example illustrates the measures that um, the retailing industry is taking to lower its cost of operations while simultaneously lowering the carbon footprint of its operation. For example, um, food scraps, grass clippings, leaves, animal manure, and coffee grounds are all compostable. Composting is useful for making inexpensive fertilizer for lands, gardens, and farms. Reclamation and component restriction. Reclamation refers to the responsible collection of the products once they no longer offer value to consumers. For example, um, the environmental quality company provides retailers with means for handling hazardous electronics, including lighting and batteries, pharmaceuticals and medical waste. Land and soil consideration also prompt retailers and their suppliers to develop programs that facilitate their product reclamation. Component restriction refers to limit placed on their ingredients that can be imported into a product. Reclamation and component restriction is when an item is reclaimed, it is reused in its existing form, either for its original purpose or an alternative purpose. The benefits of this is to allow the land to thrive and remain conducive to fertile soil and other areas of growth. This restores the balance in the land and ecosystem as a whole. End of Life Directive. Established in 2000, the EU End of Life Directive requires automotive manufacturers and component suppliers to reclaim auto products. Specifically, this directive requires all manufacturers to take back and dismantle all motor vehicles for domestic use at the end of their useful lives. Components part are then either reused or recycled. Um, the goal is for all motor vehicle manufacturers to have a reuse or recyclable content of 85% at the end of their products' useful lives now and move to toward 95% by 2015. As I can as I see it, end of life is helping supplier to use again all the reusable parts of products, and at the same time, um, they also help our environment to lessen the product waste. Restriction of hazardous substances, ROHS, is an EU directive that severely restricts the use of lead, hexavalent, chromium, mercury, cadmium, and some flame retardants. ROHS regulation apply to large and small household appliances, information technology, and telecommunication equipment, consumer equipment, electrical and electronic tools, toys, leisure equipment, and other devices. Um, the objective of ROHS directive is to prevent the risk posed to human health and the environmental link to the management of electronic and electrical waste. The goal of ROHS, reduction of hazardous substances, is to reduce the environmental effect and health impact of electronics. The legislation primary purpose is to make electronics manufacturing safer at every stage of an electronic device's life cycle. Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment Directive. Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment Directive is a directive designed to reduce the amount of electronic waste in landfills. It it addresses all the products in ROHS, and it further includes medical devices and monitoring and control instrument. Um, Waste electrical and electronic equipment is electrical and electronic equipment that is broken or unwanted. It is important to dispose responsibly of any appliances that runs on electricity or that contains electrical parts in order to avoid causing damage to the environment. Registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemical substances. REACH. REACH regulation is designed to protect human health and the environment while enhancing innovation and competitiveness. REACH approaches this goal by requiring businesses to register the substances in their products and make public any potential risk from the use of these chemicals. In order to manage REACH, a firm must assess its product portfolio. Um, REACH is the primary regulation in the European Union designed to evaluate chemical risks while protecting human health and the environment. REACH is based on the idea that industry itself is the best place to ensure that the chemicals it manufactures and puts on the market in the EU, European Union, do not adversely affect human health or the environment. This requires that industry has certain knowledge of the properties of its substances and manage potential risks. Thank you for